other breaking story of the day here is from the attorney in Waller County, Texas, speaking out on the death of Sandra Bland. Officials there say cuts on her arms and scabs on her back and shoulder. They showed some of these photos from this news conference from her own autopsy. She is the woman who was found dead in that Texas jail cell who may have tried to kill herself in the past. That detail comes from the Waller County jail documents that Sandra Bland filled out after her arrest on July 10th. 3 days later, she was found hanging in her cell. The sheriff says it was suicide. In fact, he released Bland's intake form with her handwritten responses. So this is after she was taken to the jail. This is some of the questions she was asked. Have you ever been very depressed? Yes is marked. Do you feel this way now? Yes. Have you had thoughts of killing yourself in the last year? Yes. Are you thinking about killing yourself today? No. Have you ever attempted suicide? Yes. And it shows it was because she lost a baby. But while this paperwork may help to confirm perhaps this was indeed a suicide, it also contradicts it, because another page, this one typewritten here, shows this. Under the question, attempted suicide, the answer is no. Waller County's DA also says Bland had marijuana in her system, and then that all brings us to today's news conference from the top of the hour. So joining me now, I have HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson, who listened in to the entire thing, and CNN contributor and forensic scientist Lawrence Kobylinski. So welcome to both of you. And Joey, I just wanted to jump to you first because you were able to listen to the whole thing. You heard some of the details from these officials as far as abrasions on her body. What did they say?
It was largely forensic, Brooke, and just to do a backdrop, I think there's some concern in light of what her state of mind was, right? There was a phone call apparently she made early on. We heard, the message that she left, which would appear to be inconsistent with someone who wants to commit suicide. In addition to that, she takes a job. Exactly. She takes a job, she moves, and, she went grocery shopping. So it was a major concern as to whether her state of mind would be consistent with someone wanting to commit suicide. What the prosecution did, from me listening to the press conferences, they looked at the forensic evidence, examining what it may show in terms of suicide versus an actual, someone killing her or doing something inappropriate to her. And what they did was they focused on the body parts. In terms of looking at the hands, what they were talking about is there may be defensive wounds in the event that there was someone who attacked her, and those defensive wounds on the hand would be consistent with some type of struggle. They were non-existent, according to the prosecutor. In addition to that, fingernails. Perhaps in the event you're involved in a fight, there may be something under your fingernails. They then looked at other body parts in terms of the neck. In the event someone strangled you, there would be some type of compression medically that would be consistent with some type of struggle and strangulation. They said it was more consistent, however, with someone who would have committed suicide. And so they did that. In terms of the back, what they looked at in the back, that may be consistent with what occurred on the street in terms of her encounter with the police department. Mm-hmm. So what they did, and also showing graphic photographs, was to establish that these are the different body parts that are on her in addition to others, and it would appear, according to what they're saying from the forensic examination and testing, that everything, according to the prosecutor, would be more consistent with a suicide than it would be a struggle. They even went as far as to look into the eyes, showing photographs in terms of what the eyes may show, and apparently, they become more bloodshot, or there's some redness in them that would be indicative of some type of struggle that would be violent. Okay. That was non-existent. So the prosecutor went through everything, I think, in an effort to attempt to be transparent, to show exactly what happened there from their perspective.
Larry Kobylinski, this is your area of expertise. How do you interpret all of these details?
Well, frankly, I think the autopsy was well done. I think the structures in the neck were examined very carefully. I think people will pay special attention to the cartilage called the cricoid cartilage and the hyoid bone. If there was a manual strangulation, these structures would be damaged. It would be evident. Petechia sometimes are found, sometimes they're not found in a hanging. I have heard nothing that would indicate other than a self-inflicted asphyxia. I think one of the things a medical examiner needs to do is study the cell and determine whether or not she had the capability of putting this trash bag above on the ceiling structure and setting this up as a hanging. We do know this was a partial hanging. Her feet were on the ground, So once it's established that she could have committed this act independently, there's nothing else that has been found that might indicate a violent struggle took place. And so the conclusion is basically one by ruling out all other alternatives. So at this point, obviously toxicology needs to be done before this is completed, but finding the presence of THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is not going to make much of a difference. Yes, it's a mind-altering drug, but it would not explain much, except for, people that are depressed will often use drugs, and this is a drug of abuse. So it's not surprising. So we don't have all the data yet. We'll have more with the tox report when that's released. But it seems to me that everything is pointing to a self-inflicted asphyxia. In other words, the manner of death is not a homicide. It appears to be a suicide.
Right, and that's precisely what these officials were saying in Weller County, Texas. But again, to be clear, this is not what the family believes, and they've ordered that independent autopsy. We're still waiting on the results of that to be made public. Joey Jackson and Larry Kobolinski, thank you both very, very much. I appreciate it. Still ahead, happening moments ago along the U.S.-Mexico border, you had Donald Trump addressing and taking questions from the media there in Laredo, Texas. The Republican frontrunner again hammering his message about illegal immigration. Much more straight ahead.
Unbelievable.